Greef Carga gives Mando an offer he can't refuse. So our Mandalorian gathers a team to protect Baby Yoda and heads out to settle things with the client once and for all. If only things went that smoothly. It's The Mandalorian, Chapter 7, The Reckoning. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Mandalorian. So yes, spoilers coming your way, and always our quick jump index system right in the description below. Have this entire review broken down, titleized, time-stamped. Jump to the end of the review first. Watch the beginning last. You can watch this review in any order you'd like. Alright, so I guess I'm going to stop predicting where this show is going to go. I mean, look, we are used to serialized dramas now. You know, back in the day, episodic TV was just that, episodic. Your episodes were rather interchangeable. You could watch one in any order. You could watch the end of the season first. You could watch the beginning last. You could do it anyway, kind of like this show. And it wouldn't really make a difference. Everybody, kind of like many of the Simpsons episodes, every character's in the exact same place at the beginning and at the end. And when we restart, it's just, you don't need to know what happened before. And a lot of the episodes this season for Mandalorian have been exactly that, which throws some of us off when we are so used to the more modern form of storytelling, a lot more serialized stories. The story begins at the beginning and it goes to the end, and if you miss something in the beginning, you're actually missing important information. Mandalorian's kind of doing it halfway, and I think it works for it, to be honest. It has a large overarching story, but we have had many episodes in the midst of it that are pretty much standalone. You could watch The Prisoner before you watched The Gunslinger, and it really wouldn't make that much of a difference story-wise. However, we do get back to our main overarching story this episode. And yeah, I know, I thought it was going to be till the end and we'd have another standalone, but like I say, what do I know? But things do sort of fall out in a generally expected manner. We do have Mandalorian gathering his team, all of the people that we have met throughout the season, in this case, in order to protect Baby Yoda, and not save him or her, since we don't know the sex of the little one yet. And then, you know, going into to deal with Greef Carga and to go up against the client. So yes, things are happening, kind of an expected manner, but yeah, they're mixing it up, which is good. It's fun. It keeps things fresh. But this episode, like I said, back to our main storyline. We get back up with Greef Carga. We meet back up with Cara Dune, with Quill, our Ugnaught rancher. Even IG-11 here gets a little reappearance in a much different form. And that sort of kind of deals with some of the themes of this episode. There's a lot of redemption arc ideas established in here, principally because of our wars against the rebels and the Imperials. Cara wants nothing to do with the Mandalorian's mission and everything until she finds out that they're going up against Imperials. It's not a warlord, it's an imp, and that pulls her on board. That's where she is. But we have someone like Quill who used to work for the Imperials and is now free on his own, showing a sign of redemption, of becoming more. You don't have to stay the enemy. IG-11 also in a similar kind of idea, and I like the link of the story they did between Quill and IG-11. Kind of our first little flashback outside of the Mandalorian story, Mandalorian's own story, is now looking into that Quill little backstory of him finding IG-11 and rebuilding him, repurposing him, that he can be something else than just the assassin droid that he was programmed to be. And of course, we even have Greef Carga doing his own bit of redemption arc. Starting out initially, you know that this was all a trap and suckering in the Mandalorian in order to try and capture him. But after a little ventures and a little force healing by Baby Yoda there, even Greef sees that there is a change that can happen. So And some of the arguments that we have between Kuiil and Kara also has to do with the idea of just because once one used to be the enemy or used to be Imperial doesn't mean that they have to stay that way. So we get some nice little redemption themes through this episode, as well as just kind of bringing up our big story. Plus, we get our new introduction to our new villain, new overarching villain, Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito, another ex-Imperial, now establishing his own little bit, certainly using the remnants of the Empire beautifully. I mean, his intro shows just how powerful and so strong he is, especially compared to the client. So we get our nice overarching story of redemption. We get to meet up with old characters that we had before, and we get to really step into the larger story and the larger threat and really have it thrown down right in our faces. Especially with the cliffhanger loss of Baby Yoda. No! Mando will get him back. Or her. Like I said, we don't know the sex of the baby yet. Alright, so the episode, of course, opening up with Mando receiving a call from Greef Carga offering a deal. Apparently the Imperial presence around him has increased to interfering with guild business, and Greef sees that the only real solution to this is to finally take out the client, get rid of the Imp presence entirely. How do you do that? Bring Mando back, use Baby Yoda as bait, and then Mando can go and kill the client. That sounds too good to be true, isn't it? And I'm pretty sure Mando sees this as the trap that it is, which is why he goes out and pulls back, reaches back and pulls all the people that we've met so far over the season in order to team up with them. Great seeing Cara Dune back. Love the little intro, what she's doing. She's fighting for beer money. I mean, survival and everything else, but kind of a cool little thing. I like the little connectors that keeps the two parties from getting any further apart. So you don't have to have a designated ring. They can only get so far back. And it's sort of a physical presence. You know, grabbing it, pulling Cara in to try and do that great close-up battle. It was a cool fight. Something that we haven't really seen before. And I like seeing these things that are brand new and yet still seem to fit perfectly in universe. She, of course, not that interested in joining up with Mandalorian, even to protect cute little Baby Yoda, until she finds out that they're going after imps, not just some back planet warlord. So, considering that she spent quite a lot of time going after Imperials, that seems to be where she would like to go. She doesn't want to just fight, she wants to go after imps. And we also find out a little bit more on her backstory, that since leaving the Republic, she's done a few bad things. Stuff that's gotten her in trouble. Stuff to the point where if the Republic runs into her, she's most likely going to be arrested, which would make sense why she thought that Mando, because of being with the Guild, had a file on her. So yeah, and why she's been hiding out. So yeah, we definitely get to see there's a little bit more on the backstory there for Cara Dune, which is why she initially wouldn't agree to go with him. Can't be on a ship. If the Republic sees her, picks her up, then she's gone. However, Mando's got his own ship. Doesn't need that. Going against Imperials, that's kind of all that Cara needed. So that was kind of a nice little bit. We get to see what she's doing, we get a little bit more on her backstory, and we get to see what a really strong motivation, certainly driven by a hate of Imperials, which gives us a lot of the drama that we have once we go and meet up with Kuiil and IG-88 and even Greef Carga and such. Is because Kuiil, of course, is an Ugnaught, used to work for the Imperials, not willingly, was sold into it for slavery, and worked for them for a very long time. What did you say? Several of your human lifetimes, or a couple of your human lifetimes. So, definitely did his work for a long time, but managed to gain his freedom by the skills of his hands. Whether he was able to do work to make a deal to get out, or as things sort of fell, that he was able to sort of buy his way out by doing something. We don't get the specifics, but isn't really necessary. What it shows is that Kuiil was someone that, yes, used to work for the Imperials, no longer does. Certainly has no loyal to them in any way as he sees them, that he was basically a slave to Imperial masters. So a lot more similarities in some ways to Cara, but just that Imperial connection has an overriding thought. Even for Mando to a certain extent. He trusts Kuiil, but finding, it's still a little bit of a journey for him. The the IG-11 bit, I thought was really interesting. Again, first time that we've actually seen a backstory not involving the Mandalorian. In fact, I think it might be the only real backstory that we've actually seen in the show, which was kind of an interesting veer off from the way things have normally handled. But it was interesting seeing how Kuiil went into the old remnants of the base where Baby Yoda was, found IG-11. Ugnaughts, being very technically oriented beings, takes him and tries to rebuild him, and instead tries to give him a new life as well, to be more than what he was just purposed for. Which, yes, Mandalorian does not have a big trust for droids, and yeah, we've mentioned in the comments, of course, his parent was killed by battle droids. Sure, that would be a reason why he would have his level of distrust, but it seems to go a little deeper than that. I think there's even more to that story that we might find out, because he's very insistent that they cannot get past what they are programmed for, what a droid's original purpose was, is what they're dedicated, and they can't really change that. So I think there might be a little bit more to this anti-droid story. But again, it sets up that interesting redemption arc, and of course also seeing IG-11 going around serving drinks. Are you thirsty? There was that one bit where it was a great standoff looking at IG-8, Mando looking at IG-8 or IG-11 back and forth. You're thinking something's about to happen, and IG-11's like, tea? It was just kind of a nice little fun little comic moment there. And then, of course, we also have Greef Carga himself, who, like I said, it sounds like a trap. Coming out, especially when they land, he's got the 3 hardened guild killers right behind him. It feels like a trap. Everything as it goes on feels like a trap. And I love how we have his kind of little arc, that it takes the attack in the middle of the night by our big flying creatures. With all these killers, did it surprise anyone else that they were only able to shoot like one of them after it was taken up the erg there? I would have thought they would have been better shots, even in the dark, against these flying creatures, especially Cara, who's got like the Gatling cannon. But anyway, we had to whittle down numbers in some manner there, but also it gives Greef his injury, which pulls in Baby Yoda to do the full healing bit, and maybe giving Greef an idea that maybe we should have a little bit of a change of heart here, that maybe he's really looking at things on the wrong side. So, like I said, it was a fun little bit, fun re-engaging all of these older characters, and of course sets us up to re-meet our villains, who are quite impressive. I do want to take a moment to touch on Baby Yoda here. Has a few great moments here. One, choking out Cara Dune. Not entirely realizing that arm wrestling is not actual combat, that it's more of a play competition between friends. But hey, he's only 50. He's a youngling, I'm assuming, because he's small. But the idea of a way to help, because he's connected so much with our Mandalorian, that in order to help him, he starts practicing a little force choking, which is also interesting because we've only ever seen that done really with Sith, with evil dark force users, not so much with light force users. So we assume, because it's Baby Yoda, that Jedi force positive light being certainly later on is able to do the force healing on Greef Carga, which we see as a more light side. But I think the interesting idea is, one, the force itself can be used either way from an individual. And also maybe seeing that Baby Yoda is at a point where it could go either way, for light or dark, depending on the training. So it still focuses on the individual's choice on how they use the Force as opposed to the actual Force powers themselves. So I'm not sure how much that was directly implied, but that's sort of what I read out of it. Is this is putting Baby Yoda in that middle position as could go light side or dark side. And maybe that's an overriding idea that the imps want. By the way, I love shortening to imps. It just makes them a little creaturey sounding, which is awesome. But maybe the reason why the imps are sort of interested is because getting that young, a powerful Force user, perhaps could be used for their own purposes. Doesn't necessarily have to be, Baby Yoda doesn't have to be good, could be turned evil, could be tempted by the dark side themselves. So, kind of an interesting bit. And then there was one other moment where everybody is arguing down at the bottom of the Razorback, and Baby Yoda cutely just sort of sticks his head down to observe the concerns, the trap, where they're going. And I got out of that Baby Yoda didn't want Mandalorian to take any risks, and that's why he went up into the cabin seat and started messing with all of the controls. It wasn't he was a bored little baby that needs to be sure to be watched. I think that was an actually conscious decision on Baby Yoda to try and change where they're going, to try and alter their future, try and alter their projected path, to keep them away from where they're going. I think that was him trying to protect Mandalorian. I think that's what we're seeing through here, both with the Force choking on Cara and moving the Razorback. I think this is Baby Yoda trying to protect the Mandalorian just as the Mandalorian is trying to protect Baby Yoda. They're working kind of back and forth. So I love that concept. I love that idea. And it gives a little bit more power to Baby Yoda's creatures. It's not just someone that has to be protected and put in a corner and watched out for, that he or she is actually evolving into a more mature creature that can make choices on their own and wants to protect the people that are protecting him or her. Got to just use a general pronoun for Baby Yoda. All right, as I had mentioned, we have strong themes of redemption in this episode. A redemption arc is always a wonderful thing to see. We always love to see people that were going to be villains or were villains becoming heroes, sides changing for, positive good benefit. And that's what we have for our Scene of the Week for this week. And that is Greef's, not betrayal of his old plan and embracement of the Mandalorian. Beautiful shot, great setup as they're overlooking the town where they have to go in. We've got Greef up in front. We got Cara and Mandalorian flanking him. Then we've got the three gunslingers behind or two now rather, because one got kicked out by the birds. Ready to, again, it's a perfect stand-up overlooking the town. We see the guys in the back start to pull their guns. We're like, yeah, man, this is the betrayal right here. And yet, Greef beautifully turns around and takes them out. It's just awesome. First off, it's Carl Weathers. We don't want him as a bad guy. Second, it's a great thing because, yeah, his life was saved by Baby Yoda. He himself is a man of honor in his own manner, as much as he plays into Mandalorian as a man of honor doing the right thing. Greef also has that in him. And he can't betray somebody that just saved his life. And he knows the Imperials are not sort of trifle with. They don't come in and just move on. When the Imperials make a presence, they are there to stay. And I think he really gets that moment to really get a full picture of what is actually going on. The fact that he himself is going down a darker road than what he wants to do. So I love redemption arcs. Carl Weathers should be a good guy. And it was just a beautifully done bit. The camera angles were right. The setup was beautiful. We get the small pull where we're going to see this is where the betrayal happens. And yet, Carl turns and shows what a badass that he is still. Quick draw, turn, spin, takes out two guys. One shot. Pew! I mean, one shot each. Two shots together because there's two guys. So it was just a cool bit. And then finally we get to see that everybody here is now on the same page. Protect Baby Yoda. Stop the Imperials. And that is the setup that we like to see. Now our ending is our setup for our final episode, really. And they do it nicely. I love reintroducing with the client, Werner Herzog, and it's beautiful because going into town and seeing it's not just the 4 guards around the client. The whole town has been taken over by Imperials. We got stormtroopers everywhere. And then as we go in and see the client, there's such a perfect casting for Werner Herzog here. One, he just has that great presence and a very commanding voice. But also with the Imperial imagery and the German accent, total Nazi imagery happening. And even the sort of idea that he does when he's talking to the Mandalorian about the armor, and it's nice seeing craftsmanship and what Beskar steel can do in the hands of the old culture. And there's a certain appreciation that he has for history, which I think is impressive, but also sort of disturbing, because it's sort of a twisted version of history as well. It's the appreciation of the epitome of what things can become without seeing the dark underlayings of what happens there. I mean, he's just getting upset, with the Beskar, why did you resist us? We only improve areas that we go in. Economics and politics and everything it becomes so much better. You can see that. I mean, it's kind of the German idea. It's like, we come and we make things better and it's more efficient. It's like, yeah, we don't talking about the enslavement that you have of other races. Imperials, very prejudiced, very human-driven. It's that the history of the Imperials is a very human-centric government, which is why Ugnaughts and other creatures are enslaved or used simply for their own purposes and easily cast away. So that's not something, of course, that our client is hitting on right there. Not those larger pictures, not the darkness that goes underneath the Imperials, but just that pure vision of how it benefits him and people in his own position, that it makes everything so much better. It's just a beautiful, dark little speech that, again, with that German accent, just makes it space Nazis. It's the Imperials are, they're space Nazis. And Nazis, of course, usually willing to sacrifice each other for their own needs. Loyalty only goes so far, which is what we've seen with the arrival of Moff Gideon. Well, the intro to the arrival for Moff Gideon, as his troopers, as he calls up, is like, "Oh, is the baby there? Yeah. Are you sure?" And just blaze waste, just has guys outside just opening fire in. Was he trying to kill everybody? Did he think that he was going to save the Mandalorian? He was just going to take out his own people? Hard to tell. I'm sure if he had just killed everybody, that would have worked just fine for Moff Gideon. But it shows, again, the more badass reposition that he is. The client still wanting to talk to the Mandalorian, still wanting to talk to Greef. Moff Gideon just happy to mow everyone down and take what's left. And such an impressive arrival. First, we got all the dark troopers right there. Then the troop transport pulls up. We get all the stormtroopers in their nicer, cleaner armor, starting to move a little bit towards some of the design for First Order here. It's still very stormtrooper, but there's that little bit of a cleaner line, little bit of a change. I think we're starting to get that kind of next evolution of stormtrooper into First Order that we're starting to see here. And then, of course, Moff Gideon's own arrival via TIE Fighter. Always such an impressive sound as it comes down. And the wing folding, I think that's the first time we've seen that. I don't recall to it. Maybe they did in some of the cartoons and stuff if I had missed it, but even then, through Rebels and such, I don't recall seeing the wings sort of folding in half so it can land back down. That was kind of a cool little shot. And then him just walking out, demanding the Baby Yoda and what's going on. It was just, it was such a great, impressive introduction. The only kind of scene that I was curious about is when we have Mandalorian calling out for Quill. Quill, are you at the ship yet? Get there, lock everything down. Now he's got a security system that'll keep things from going on board. He should have activated that before the Jawas came on back in episode 2. But, not important. Now I know that Quill gave Mandalorian the comm. And maybe it's using old Imperial tech, but really the same frequency that the bike troopers have, the scout troopers have. Did they really overhear him saying, get to the ship? And did they use that transmission to know exactly where Quill was so they could... I mean, that was the only part where timeline-wise I wasn't entirely sure. Especially because Moff Gideon has started this whole introduction is when he asked the client, do you have the baby? And he says, oh yeah, I'm looking at him right here. He's sleeping. And he says, are you sure about that? Or something to the line. He seems to imply that he knows the baby isn't there. And that Quill has. So why didn't he have people just waiting at the ship? Why did it take Quill to get so long? Yeah, they walked and he's got the one thing, but those bike troopers caught up very quick. It was one of those, I know it's done for tension and it's done to do that build-up and it's great as Mandalorian's calling, Quill, let me know, are you there, are you there? I think he was probably already shot and dead before that. I don't think that he was riding and trying to get to the point, he could have been answering. He did pick up the pace, though, when Mandalorian first contacted him. So that is possible. It was just, I don't know, setup-wise, I may have hoped the Baby Yoda was back at the ship before we went down into the town. And then why then didn't, again, Moff Gideon, if he knew that Quill had the baby, why didn't he just send troops there? Again, it's done for drama, and I'm fine with it. It just had a few things, and it does give us that just heartbreaking final bit where we're thinking that Quill's gonna make it to the ship. And then he doesn't. And we just see the scout trooper come, pick up Baby Yoda, and then the camera pan to a smoking body of Quill. It's sad. He didn't want to be on board anyway. He did it to protect Baby Yoda, not to fight. So it's sad that we lose him. But of course, you have to have that loss to further motivate our heroic characters. And I'm wondering if that might end up being a good use for IG-11, because IG-11 was the last thing that Quill had told Mandalorian is, I know you don't trust the droid, but do you trust me? Then trust my work. So I'm really hoping the next episode, which will be directed by Taika Waititi, who plays the voice of IG-11, is going to be used to help rescue Baby Yoda. That's the programming change, is not to kill Baby Yoda, but protect Baby Yoda. I'm really hoping that IG-11 will come in. It'll be a great way to maybe help overcome some of Mandalorian's prejudices, but more to the point, honor Quill's sacrifice. That there is still some work that he had done that will contribute to save Baby Yoda. That's what I'm hoping. Alright, well I think that hits most of the big points there. I've gone on a heck of a lot longer than I thought I was going to with this, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Now, next week is the finale. Of course, Moff Gideon's got Baby Yoda. Quill is dead. Mandalorian, Greef, and Carga are trapped inside the building by Moff Gideon and all of his stormtroopers. So we get it. It's a beautiful setup for a big finale right here. Our heroes are going to have to fight their way out. They're going to have to regroup. They're going to have to save Baby Yoda. And like I said, I'm really hoping that IG-11 plays an important role in that. It would honor Quill's death very nicely. Now, this episode's about 40 minutes. That's been sort of the average of the past few, so I'm assuming we can expect that. Part of me wants them to go and double that and do a giant mission next week. I don't really think that's going to happen, but I'm also not going to predict anymore, because I've been off on all of my predictions. I'm more happy to just see how this show is going to set itself up. Because they not only have to get through next episode, we already know that Mandalorian Season 2 has already been approved. So I'm sure we're going to have some cliffhanger there as well. So are they going to rescue Baby Yoda by next week? Is it just going to be the setup for the following season? Do we find out more about First Order and Moff Gideon and maybe that transition over to? Just very excited and really just want to know what are their exact plans for Baby Yoda. Is it stealing midichlorians? Is it cloning? Or is it just raising the baby to be a dark force user to help the ex-Imperial side now? Many options. Really curious which one they're going to pick. We'll have to wait till next week to find that out. So, thank you, as always, for joining me with these reviews. And as always, if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Where do you think we're going? Do you like the redemption arc they did? Do you really think Queel's dead? I think so. But what are your thoughts? Let me know. Throw them down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe. Quick, easy, one button press. You catch all these reviews. Well, I know there's only one more, and we're about to wrap up with last season of Mr. Robot, but we'll have some reviews, season reviews going on, peppered throughout January, and then we return to the second half season of Walking Dead in February. So still a lot more stuff coming up. Don't miss those reviews. You won't if you're a subscriber. Do that by clicking this button right here. Be sure to hit the bell underneath for notifications whenever new reviews are dropped, and we'll throw a couple of those latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.